It occurred during that camping trip, she whispered. You were out on the lake, while I found solace in the tent. As Connor strolled past, he caught a glimpse of me in my state of undress. He entered, and quite simply, it unfolded. Lucas, I simply need to express my apologies. I now understand the extent of the damage I've caused in the lives of others. I once had a husband who was truly remarkable, and I let it all slip through my fingers. Welcome to Addy Story, where we share real-life stories that touch the heart and inspire the soul. Subscribe now to join our community, relax, and dive into the stories we have for you. Enjoy. Once I had recorded a voicemail for my wife, Isabella, with whom I had shared 5 years of marriage. I took a final look at my phone. I recently finalized a significant service agreement with a prominent company based here in Oregon, one that has offices nationwide. I was certain that my boss, Connor Hayes, would be excited. This contract represented expansion for our IT firm and a significant increase in my salary. Perhaps this is the moment, I mused, for Isabella and me to embark on the family journey we had often envisioned. Yet, there was an unsettling feeling within me. Ever since my return from that camping trip with Connor, Isabella seemed to have lost her spark. She appeared disconnected, aloof, and reacted sharply to the slightest provocations. It was more than merely her mood. As soon as I arrived home, I started tossing some laundry into the machine when I spotted something unusual on her underwear. The texture was undeniable, and the strong scent lingered in the air, demanding my attention. The revelation struck me with force, and I sensed my reality beginning to come apart at the seams. Driven by an urgent need for clarity, I resolved to consult with a lawyer prior to returning to the Pacific Northwest. If Isabella had turned against me, I understood that there would be no way to return to what we once had. I contacted a lawyer, Sophia Reynolds, who specializes in family law and divorce, after a friend of mine, recently navigating a difficult separation, suggested her. Do you really believe that Isabella is being unfaithful to you? Sophia inquired as I detailed my concerns. I can't say for certain, I confessed, but I must find out. If she has, I seek a divorce. Sophia explained that divorces here usually don't attribute blame. It's possible to pursue a case for infidelity, but you'll require substantial evidence, such as photographs or videos, to support your claim. What precisely do I require? I inquired, a sense of dread washing over me. An investigator could definitely uncover the truth if you're interested, she remarked. I agreed, and she proposed to set it up. Given that your incomes are comparable and there are no properties or children involved, the division should be quite simple. Should infidelity be established, we can leverage that to achieve a more advantageous result for you. Very well, I consented to proceed. I'll be away for roughly 3 days, so perhaps that's when it will take place. She reached out to her investigator, Owen Parker, who recommended that I install a tracking app on Isabella's phone. He even provided a device to record our landline conversations, along with a small audio recorder for her purse. I found it difficult to turn to this, yet I had to find out. As time passed, even Connor began to behave in a way that suggested he was aware of something beyond my understanding. It only intensified the turmoil in my stomach. At last, the moment arrived. Isabella took me to the airport, gave me a kiss farewell, and I assured her I would call that night. When I heard that, she caught me off guard by saying she'd be overseeing a party that Connor was hosting. One of his usual servers was unavailable, and he had requested Isabella to step in, even proposing $150 for the evening. All right, just be cautious, I mentioned, attempting to sound laid back. Simply share the details with me tomorrow. Absolutely, she responded. I'm sure you know how much I care about you, don't you? I love you too, Isabella, I replied, ending the call with a tightness in my gut. Immediately after, I reached out to Owen to inform him of her whereabouts for the evening. He assured me that we would monitor her closely and provide updates. The following day, I attempted to reach Isabella on her cell, but there was no response. I dialed our landline, but once more, it was just the answering machine. Convincing myself that she hadn't stayed over at Connor's, I managed to get through the day until an email from Owen arrived. Isabella has spent the night at Connor's place and remains there still, it read. He'd included images, ones that will linger in my memory for a long time. She hadn't only been with Connor. There were 2 other men involved, individuals I once considered friends. My hands trembled as I gazed at those images. Breath escaped me, and clarity was a distant thought. I attempted to reach her once more, but only her voicemail greeted me. Frustrated, I made my way to the hotel bar to channel my anger. By morning, I reviewed the tracker, and indeed, her phone remained at Connor's. Owen's follow-up email provided further confirmation, accompanied by additional pictures that depicted her alongside a sizable group, which featured Connor's son, Grayson, and various members of Connor's IT team. There were some unfamiliar faces, likely acquaintances of Grayson's. A wave of nausea washed over me. Having finalized the contract, I gathered my belongings, checked out of the hotel, and boarded an early flight back home. Upon my arrival, I noticed that Isabella's car was absent, prompting me to head inside to change. I reached out to Sophia, and her receptionist informed me that she could accommodate me that afternoon. When Isabella finally answered her phone, her voice carried a hint of breathlessness. "Hello, it's me," I said, attempting to maintain a steady tone. "Where might you be?" "I'm at home," she responded, her voice steady and calm. "I'm finalizing a few details before the classes commence." I clenched my teeth against my irritation. "All right. I've wrapped things up here in Oregon, and I'm heading back now." "Oh, very well," she replied, her voice gentle. "Your absence is deeply felt. Give me a ring when you touch down, and I'll swing by the airport to get you." I declined, I said. "I'll simply take a taxi." I ended the call, realizing that I hadn't expressed my love for her or mentioned my anticipation of our next meeting. She likely observed. With a heavy heart, I stepped out of the house to see Sophia. In that moment, I pictured Isabella glancing at her phone, a look of bewilderment on her face. This time, I concluded the call without expressing my love for her, which was unusual for me. And my voice likely echoed with an unusual distance. She had originally intended to return home after that first night. But the allure of lying between Connor and his son was simply too tempting to resist. She assured herself that everything would come to a close when classes started again, that I would remain oblivious. She decided to spend another night greeting Connor as he returned from work to discover her and his son Grayson on his bed. Connor simply smirked and remarked, "Perhaps I ought to arrange more trips for your husband. You know I have classes starting soon," she said, chuckling as if this whole situation was just a playful jest. "I'll be occupied for the upcoming week. I wouldn't consider doing anything with him present." "Why not, indeed?" Connor playfully mocked. Perhaps he would appreciate witnessing the actions of true men. Connor and Grayson chuckled, obviously satisfied with their own cleverness. She expressed that she enjoyed herself, yet she was concerned about causing Lucas any pain. My feelings for him remain strong. Perhaps I'll ensure he's away for another weekend, Connor proposed. We would love to have you visit us again. It certainly seems entertaining, she said with a sly grin, yet eventually he'll discover the truth. Lucas is not foolish. Connor nonchalantly lifted a video camera, his shoulders rising slightly in indifference. Rest assured, Lucas is in good hands with me. However, the reality is, I no longer wish for you to be with him. You belong to us now. Understood? Very well, she whispered. I'll come up with a plan. In an instant, Isabella transformed into a stranger, reveling in the spotlight from Connor's friends and colleagues as if she were at a bizarre celebration. Upon finally reviewing all the evidence Owen gathered, it struck me profoundly. There were images, even a couple of DVDs, featuring her with various men, engaging in activities she would never consider with me. Observing her felt akin to witnessing a complete stranger, someone whose actions and decisions were entirely unfamiliar. Sophia attempted to provide some comfort, yet it was evident that there was no turning back. What could have motivated her to take this action? I whispered, still reeling from the betrayal after 5 years of shared moments. And Connor, as well, a person I believed to be a friend. Sophia confirmed that we will move forward with the divorce, citing infidelity. I have the option to initiate legal action for alienation of affection against Connor and the others. It might not lead to significant outcomes, but we could secure a reasonable agreement. Do what you must, I said, my voice empty. Just hold it together, okay? Sophia cautioned. Think carefully before taking any actions you might look back on with regret. I will not, I promised her. I've reached my limit, and I can no longer collaborate with Connor. I find it difficult to be in their presence. After exiting Sophia's office, I settled into my car and began to sift through my contacts until I located the number for Elijah Brooks, the CEO of Nexus. Nelson responded, Elijah here. Hey Elijah, it's Lucas here. Lucas Bennett. Lucas, it has been some time, he responded with warmth. How are you doing? I acknowledged that it had room for improvement. Is that position still open at Nexus? Elijah had been attempting to persuade me for quite a while, but out of loyalty to Connor, I had declined his offers. Now, that allegiance has vanished. Certainly, it's still open, Elijah responded. Have you ultimately chosen to align yourself with a distinguished group? Indeed, something along those lines, I replied, concealing the complete reality. I've come to understand that remaining in my current situation is no longer an option. I'm truly sorry to hear that, Lucas. Is there something I can assist with? Simply offer me a position, I said to him. I will offer you all that I provided to Connor, and even beyond that. Absolutely fine, Elijah replied. How about you and Isabella joining us for dinner tonight? Olivia creates a lasagna that is absolutely irresistible. Let's reconnect, and I'll walk you through the details of the offer. I would be happy to, but I won't be bringing Isabella, I stated, my tone earnest. Oh, he hesitated. Is everything okay? I prefer to discuss this face-to-face, Elijah, I responded. It's a bit of a tangled web, to put it mildly. Very well, he remarked, a hint of worry in his voice. Indeed, Olivia holds certification as a counselor. If you feel the need to share, she could offer some assistance. That truly sounds appealing, I responded, appreciative of the suggestion. Could you swing by around 6:30? Elijah proposed. I ended the call with a sense of relief washing over me for the first time in days. Absolutely, I replied to Elijah, checking the time on my watch. This evening at 6:30 then. Thank you once more, my friend. As I concluded the conversation, a sense of relief washed over me. With Elijah's job offer secured, the path ahead appeared more defined. I ignited the engine and set off towards home. But Isabella remained elusive, absent from my thoughts and surroundings. I picked up my briefcase, entered the room, and indulged in a lengthy shower. Once I had changed my clothes, I settled in front of the computer to draft my resignation letter. At around 5 o'clock, Isabella made her entrance, and upon spotting me at the computer, she approached to give me a kiss. I averted my gaze, and she ended up clumsily pressing it against my cheek. "Is everything all right?" she inquired, her expression revealing a hint of surprise. "No, not at all," I responded. "I'm not in the best of health. It's likely just jet lag or something similar. I think I'll rest on the futon tonight." "You're going out?" she inquired, her brow furrowing. "Are you planning to return?" I mentioned my dinner plans, brushing aside the hint of worry that flashed across her face. "Are you meeting a woman?" she inquired, her voice tinged with tension. "Are you questioning my loyalty to you?" I replied. "Throughout all our years together, I have remained faithful to you, and I have no plans to change that now. Are you able to express the same sentiment?" Her face drained of color as she hesitated. "Naturally, I can." She attempted to dismiss it, inquiring, "So, how was the trip?" "Fine," I responded tersely. "How did your recent experience at Connor's go?" "It went well," she remarked, her gaze flickering elsewhere for a brief instant. Despite the challenges, it remained enjoyable. "I suppose so," I responded without enthusiasm. Checking the time, I Olivia to my feet. I ought to take my leave. After securing my work, I powered down the computer and made my way to the bedroom to don something a touch more formal. As I emerged, I found Isabella still perched on the sofa. "How long will you be out?" she inquired, attempting to maintain a nonchalant tone. "Uncertain." I said nothing more as I moved toward the door, leaving without a backward glance. She observed my departure, probably realizing that I hadn't offered a goodbye kiss or uttered those 3 words I typically shared. Just as I exited the driveway, she grabbed the phone and dialed Connor. Unbeknownst to her, each word she uttered was captured in silence. "Connor, I believe he might be aware of something," she remarked, her voice tinged with unease. "What leads you to that conclusion?" he responded. "He has not made any physical contact with me. Typically, he kisses me and expresses his love for me. Yet this evening, he felt nothing but the chill. He mentioned he had dinner plans, yet he didn't specify with whom. What difference does it make if he knows?" Connor responded with an air of casual indifference. "You're always welcome to come and stay with us. No need to fret about Lucas. I'll ensure he's occupied to the point where he hardly ever returns home." "But I can't bear the thought of losing him, Connor," she urged. "My feelings for him remain strong." Connor chuckled heartily. "Of course, you absolutely do. These past few days, you've truly demonstrated the depth of your affection for him, haven't you?" "Stop," she commanded with a piercing tone. "I understand my actions, and I enjoyed them, but that doesn't imply I wish to lose Lucas." Connor's tone became condescending. "Just allow him some time. He will eventually see things differently. If he fails to comply, we will handle the situation accordingly. You belong to us now, and your role is to assist in maintaining order. Surely, you wouldn't want the school board to catch a glimpse of that footage, right? You wouldn't dare, she whispered, her voice trembling with disbelief. Oh, how I would relish the opportunity, he scoffed. There are numerous recordings of you in questionable situations. It's essential to ensure that young Lucas is on his best behavior. The final sound that lingered in the air was her defeated sigh, echoing softly as the recording came to a close. I tightened my jaw, battling the wave of revulsion that surged within me as I parked in front of the two-story home belonging to Elijah and Olivia Brooks. I clutched the bottle of wine I had chosen earlier and pressed the doorbell. Elijah greeted her with a warm smile and graciously accepted the wine with a nod. Step inside, Lucas. Thank you for bringing this. It will complement dinner beautifully, he remarked, guiding me into the dining room where Olivia was arranging the table. Lucas, allow me to introduce you to my wife, Olivia. Olivia, allow me to introduce you to Lucas Bennett, our new operations manager. Elijah made the connection for us. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Nelson, I remarked, extending my hand for a shake. Kindly refer to me as Olivia. Mrs. Nelson feels a bit too formal, she responded with a friendly smile. We settled into our chairs as Olivia dished out her lasagna, and Elijah gracefully filled our glasses with wine. The food was absolutely amazing, and I found myself expressing that this is the finest lasagna I've ever tasted. Olivia expressed her happiness, saying, I'm glad you like it. This is among my most cherished recipes. Following a bit of casual conversation, Elijah cast me an inquisitive glance. So, Lucas, what prompted your abrupt departure from Connor's firm? After a moment of uncertainty, I finally gave a nod. It's quite an elaborate tale, I remarked, gathering my thoughts before revealing all the details to them. When I reached the end, Elijah shook his head, his expression one of true astonishment. Incredible, he remarked. I apologize, Lucas. A comparable experience occurred for me once, albeit in a different context. What comes after accepting this position? I have taken the step to file for divorce, I confessed. My attorney believes it will be a simple division, considering the situation. Olivia regarded me with a look of understanding. Have you thought about seeking guidance? I gently shook my head. It has crossed the line. I can hardly recognize her now. How are you managing? Olivia inquired softly. To be frank, things aren't going great. My attorney advised me to maintain a sense of normalcy in her presence, but it's challenging. It's difficult for me to even glance in her direction. Talking to a psychologist might be beneficial, Olivia suggested. I would be happy to have a conversation with you if you're willing. Elijah smiled and remarked, Olivia excels in her craft. She was a true blessing during my difficult times. After a brief contemplation, I found myself pondering the matter. I would be grateful for that, Olivia, I replied, nodding my head. Well done, Elijah remarked, giving my shoulder a reassuring pat. Allow yourself the time you require. Simply inform us, and we will integrate it into your timetable. After finishing dinner, Elijah led me to his office to discuss my new position. With a glass of brandy in hand, we engaged in a thoughtful conversation for the next couple of hours about the role, the team dynamics, and the projects I would oversee. By the time we concluded, I sensed that I was reclaiming control over my life once more. I extended my hand to Elijah, expressing my gratitude before making my way home. As I arrived at around 10 p.m., The lights were still aglow, and I stepped inside to discover Isabella perched on the sofa. She glanced upward and inquired, "How did the meeting unfold?" "It went well, thank you," I responded tersely. "Well, if you'll excuse me, I think it's time for me to retire for the night." I entered the spare bedroom where my computer was set up and began to remove my clothes. Isabella stood framed in the doorway. "Are you currently resting in here?" I mentioned that I'm not feeling well. "The futon's perfectly adequate," I replied, dismissing her concern. She paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. "It's simply that you were absent for a few days, and I considered the possibility that we might, well, I'm not feeling it," I mentioned, a surge of revulsion washing over me at the mere thought. "All right, perhaps tomorrow," she inquired, her voice almost a murmur. I remained silent, and she glanced away, likely questioning whether I had any knowledge at all. The following morning, I, Olivia Early, took hold of my resignation letter and downloaded the audio from her conversation with Connor. Silently, I departed from the house, and upon arriving at the office, I hardly acknowledged anyone. I made my way to the office and began gathering my things. Connor entered, a look of bewilderment on his face. "What's happening?" he inquired. I presented him with 2 envelopes. One held the signed contract from Oregon, while the other contained my resignation. "I am finished. Effective immediately. I anticipate receiving my bonus, final salary, and any accrued vacation pay." "Stepping away? Are you really serious?" he stammered. "What prompts your departure?" "Don't pretend you aren't aware," I responded with a chill in my voice. "I'm no fool, Connor. I have decided to move on from this position and pursue opportunities with another company." "Hold on, Lucas. Can we discuss this?" he implored. "No discussion is necessary." "I believed we had a bond. Yet you betrayed me and shattered my marriage," I said, struggling to contain the fury bubbling within. "Oh, please," he scoffed. "I didn't compel her in any way." Isabella was more than eager. "Is that your perspective?" I inquired, filled with disbelief. "For how long has this been happening?" Connor reclined, a smirk playing on his lips. "Ever since that camping trip, to be honest." On that second day of skiing, she approached me, almost pleading. I even suggested that I might be, shall we say, superior to you. "So that's the reason you had me go that day, isn't it? So you could keep her all to yourself?" I insisted, my anger simmering just beneath the surface. Connor acknowledged it without hesitation. "Why not indeed? What about bringing her on board as a waitress for the party?" "Just another opportunity for some amusement," he remarked with a sly smile. I pulled out my phone, halting the recording I had begun the instant Connor stepped into my office. "Thank you for your honesty," I replied with a calm demeanor. "Well, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to HR now. Take care, Connor." "Hold on," he exclaimed, hurriedly moving about. "That recording is not permissible for use." "We'll see about that," I responded. "Farewell, Connor. I wish you the worst of fates." I collected my belongings and stepped outside, experiencing a sense of closure like never before. As I approached the door, his voice echoed behind me. "Hey, you left something behind." I turned my head to catch a glimpse of him, his hands cradling a framed photo of Isabella that had occupied a place on my desk for years. "Hold on to it," I insisted. "If you and your son desire her that much, she's completely yours. I've reached my limit." I turned and walked away, leaving Connor in a state of disbelief. As I made my way home, my phone vibrated, signaling a call from Isabella. She sounded desperate. He stepped down. What do you mean? She demanded after Connor informed her. Indeed, he simply presented a designated contract along with a letter of resignation, Connor elaborated. He understands, Isabella. I'm not sure of the method, but he certainly has it figured out. What did you say to him? She asked, her voice trembling with anxiety. Indeed, that was the answer, Connor replied. I recounted our shared experience during that hike. You fool, she retorted, her voice thick with exasperation. What about the picture of me that he held onto? Oh, that wasn't his desire, Connor mentioned. Instructed me to hold on to it. It seems he's truly moved on from you. Isabella was in tears now. What shall we do now? She inquired, a sense of defeat in her voice. That's not my concern, Connor responded with a wave of indifference. He's your partner. You find a way to handle it. Unless, of course, you'd prefer that I intervene and help him understand our perspective. No, she whispered. You've accomplished plenty. Simply refrain from getting involved. I will take care of everything. Connor fulfilled the request for an enchilada and then ended the call. As I drove into my driveway, I noticed Isabella's car waiting outside. I surveyed the surroundings, ensuring that Connor's was out of sight, then collected my belongings and made my way indoors. Isabella sat on the couch, her eyes swollen and tinged with red. Silently, I entered my home office, secured the door, and accessed the recordings of her dialogue with Connor. Hearing her voice tremble as she struggled to articulate her thoughts about Connor filled me with a mix of satisfaction and nausea. I sent the file to Sophia and then gave her a call. Lucas, she replied, I just received your email. I am currently putting the finishing touches on your documents. When are they due for submission? I inquired, keen to wrap up this section. If you'd like, I can have them delivered later today, she responded. I expressed my gratitude, ended the call, and entered the kitchen where Isabella was seated, deliberately not meeting my eyes. I placed my briefcase on the ground and met her gaze directly. We need to have a conversation, I stated, setting my vintage .45 on the table where it could easily be grabbed. She recoiled. Is that truly essential? She inquired, her gaze fixed on the firearm. I sincerely hope that's not the case, I responded, with a chill in my voice. However, if your partner chooses to drop by, I wish to be prepared. My beloved, she faltered, her expression one of true astonishment. Don't act oblivious, Isabella. I'm not feeling playful right now. I gestured toward the seat opposite me, and she took a seat, quivering slightly. Later today, someone will be stopping by with some papers for you, I mentioned. Her complexion drained of color. Documents? Are you referring to divorce? Indeed, I declared, my voice resolute. I have complete knowledge of Connor, his son, and the rest of your companions. I initiated divorce proceedings due to unfaithfulness. She shook her head, refusing to accept it. She maintained, You lack any evidence. Oh, really? Do I not? I opened an envelope and spread out a series of time-stamped photos, each capturing her in questionable situations with several men, including Connor. I possess both video and audio as well. Are you interested in watching? She lowered her head, the weight of understanding settling in that her cries would fall on deaf ears. Very well, she murmured. Given the situation, I believe I'm being reasonable. No spousal support, a 50-50 split of the bank assets, and we maintain our individual retirement funds. Your credit card has been canceled, and enclosed is a cashier's check for your portion of the remaining balance. A restraining order is in place that mandates you maintain a distance of at least 500 feet from me, my residence, and my place of employment. Tears streamed down her face as she questioned, "So you're sending me away?" "Absolutely. You'll have the opportunity to gather your belongings before the papers are delivered to you." "What if I challenge this?" she inquired, her voice trembling with urgency. I chuckled. "Are you certain that's a prudent choice? What would be the response of your school board if I were to share these photos and videos with them? Do you believe parents would be interested in having you educate their children?" Her shoulders drooped as she gave a slight nod. "Surely, you wouldn't consider that, would you? Are you prepared to take the plunge?" I inquired, my voice cold. She shook her head, a sense of defeat washing over her. "Relinquish your rings and prepare to return to your maiden name," I declared. "It's all included in the agreement." Isabella gazed at me, taken aback. "You've turned so distant, so unfeeling." "I took my cues from the finest," I responded. "I have a question for you. What happened to you? What happened to transform you from a devoted partner to this?" She averted her gaze from me. "It occurred during that camping trip," she whispered. "You were out on the lake, while I found solace in the tent." As Connor strolled past, he caught a glimpse of me in my state of undress. He entered, and quite simply, it unfolded. "So just like that, some guy strolls in, and you're prepared to discard everything we built?" I inquired, my tone dripping with disdain. "How often did it occur during that journey?" She confessed it on 2 occasions. There was that time on the slopes, and then again when he directed you back to the office. I shook my head, gesturing towards the photographs. I observed that none of these men took precautions. "Were you not worried about the possibility of pregnancy or contracting something?" "I'm on the pill," she whispered. "Don't make it too easy," I replied. "Have you ever considered the potential dangers? Or were you simply that daring?" "Oh no," she murmured, hiding her face in her hands. "Throughout the years, I encountered chances to wander off course," I shared with her. "Women possess a captivating allure that surpasses your own. However, I never accepted them, as I believed I had a devoted and trustworthy partner. Now, I understand I was caught up in an illusion." I gestured towards the collection of bags she had assembled. "Prepare to pack. Whatever you choose to leave behind will either be incinerated or given away." She pleaded, "Can't we consider counseling?" "I assure you, I will transform. I swear." I gaze at her, a sense of numbness enveloping me. "This will never be forgiven, Isabella. Not after all that you've accomplished. It's time to gather your belongings. What remains will vanish by tomorrow." Tears flowed as she filled one bag after another, casting a final glance in my direction. "Could you lend me a hand with these to the car?" I responded with a firm no. "You're responsible for your own mess. Handle it yourself. And keep in mind, if you abandon anything, even that wedding dress, it will vanish by tomorrow. The gown for my wedding. My parents invested a fortune in that." She wept. "If it means that much to you, then you should definitely take it," I remarked, glancing back as she loaded her car with bag after bag. After 2 hours, she felt utterly drained. "The car is completely full. There's no room for anything else. May I return for the remainder?" "Negative. I suggested that someone else could pick it up. But I made it clear that you wouldn't be coming anywhere near this house. A restraining order has been issued against you." She cast a tired, sorrowful glance my way. What should I say to my parents? Consider embracing honesty for once, I suggested. Inform them that you were unfaithful with my superior and a few others. If I share that with them, they'll cast me out, she said. That's not my concern, I responded with a chill in my voice. However, if you attempt to portray me as the antagonist, you can be certain that the complete narrative will come to light. At that moment, a knock echoed through the door. I gazed at her. That's for you, Isabella replied, as she opened the door to reveal a sheriff's deputy. Are you Isabella Harper? He inquired. With a slight nod, she accepted the envelope he offered. You've been served, he declared. Please leave the premises without delay. As tears streamed down her face, she signed the documents and cast a glance back at me. I truly apologize, she murmured. Absolutely. I feel the same way. Farewell, Isabella, I uttered. She departed in silence, accompanied by the deputy. The following days passed in a haze, yet I received no word from her once more. Connor, however, made 2 calls, leaving ominous messages. Lucas, I can sense your presence, he snapped in one. Withdraw this lawsuit, or I assure you there will be consequences. I preserved the voicemail and forwarded it to Sophia, who promptly engaged the sheriff's department. Isabella's parents, Michael and Emily, reached out shortly after, inquiring if they could come by to collect her belongings. I concurred, instructing them to make certain she kept her distance. Upon their arrival, they attempted to dissuade me from proceeding with the divorce. She simply erred, Emily remarked with tears in her eyes. Surely, forgiveness can be found for her. What did she say to you? I inquired. Emily responded, her confusion evident as she mentioned that she had a disagreement with your boss. I carefully removed the envelope filled with photos and DVDs, spreading them across the table for a closer look. Their expressions dimmed upon viewing the images. I regret that she didn't share the truth with you, I remarked. It was far more dire than she portrayed. Oh, Lucas, Emily murmured, filled with dread. I was completely unaware. Michael's face flushed with fury. He stated, gathering the final items, that he would speak with their daughter. They embraced me warmly before departing. As the evening wore on, a second knock echoed through my door. I looked through the peephole and spotted Connor, his son Grayson, along with 2 of my old colleagues. In a rush, I hurried to my office, took hold of my firearm, and dialed 911, concealing the weapon discreetly behind my back. I just managed to crack the door open before they burst in, with Connor at the forefront. I'm about to impart a lesson you won't forget, he growled, advancing with an intimidating presence. I drew my pistol and took aim directly at him. That stopped him and his friends dead in their tracks. Do you truly wish to challenge me? I inquired, my tone unwavering. Just to inform you, I've already contacted the emergency services. The authorities are en route. If you remain present when they arrive, you will all face arrest for breaching the restraining order. Ah, Connor, I believe he's serious, one of the guys whispered, casting a wary glance at the flashing red and blue lights that were arriving outside. Absolutely, Connor. I'm not joking. I verified it just as the police sirens intensified. As they made their move to exit, the moment had passed. 2 uniformed officers had already positioned themselves in the doorway. One of the officers assumed command. Please lower the weapon, sir, he stated with conviction. I set the firearm down on the kitchen table and lifted my hands in surrender. Officer, I stated, gesturing towards Connor and his companions, these individuals have breached a restraining order, unlawfully entered my residence. and issued threats against me. I want them taken into custody. One of the officers inquired if you had a copy of the order. I retrieved an envelope from the kitchen drawer and passed it over. The officer glanced at it for a moment before directing his attention to the four men. "Turn around and place your hands behind your back," he commanded. The officers placed them in handcuffs, reciting their rights with a steady voice. Connor shot me a fierce look, yet I remained still, observing as they were taken away. One of the officers inquired, "Do you possess a license for this firearm?" "Indeed, officer," I responded, presenting my driver's license along with my firearms certification. He nodded, offering me a note of warning. "Exercise caution with that," he advised. "Got it." "Thank you, officer," I said, a peculiar sense of relief washing over me as the police finally departed. The following 3 months flew by, as life found its rhythm in a fresh routine. My experience at Nexus brought a sense of fulfillment that was unmatched by my time at Connor's company. Olivia's weekly counseling sessions guided me in navigating the persistent anger and trust issues, and I even adopted some new habits along the way. I began going to the gym 3 times a week, enrolled in a martial arts class for mental discipline, and adhered to a diet and fitness program suggested by Olivia. The divorce was uncomplicated. Isabella accepted it without objection. However, the lawsuits concerning the alienation of affection presented a different narrative altogether. Sophia cautioned me about the difficulty of these cases. Yet surprisingly, 2 of the defendants ended up being dismissed as a result of the media attention. The case against Connor, however, was the one that left us all in disbelief. Following the testimony and examination of Sophia's evidence, along with Connor's financial records, the judge delivered a ruling in my favor, granting a judgment of $1 million. At the conclusion of the trial, the judge delivered a stern admonition to Connor. "Mr. Hunt," he commenced, gazing down at him with unmistakable disapproval, "your behavior in this matter is utterly unacceptable. You not only turned your back on someone who saw you as a friend, but you also exploited your role to ruin his marriage and personal life. It appears that there have been several instances where the restraining order has not been adhered to. The ruling is in favor of the plaintiff with an award of $1 million in damages." Connor's lawyer, Olivia, to his feet, objecting, "Your Honor, this decision is quite extraordinary." The judge cast him a frosty glare. "Not as peculiar as the actions of your client. If restitution is not settled promptly, he may face incarceration for contempt. The matter is resolved." With a decisive strike of his gavel, he marked the conclusion of the proceedings. Connor, visibly defeated, passed a check to his lawyer, which eventually found its way to Sophia, who then handed it to me. To my astonishment, the check cleared seamlessly, enabling me to settle Sophia's portion. As the news of the lawsuit circulated, numerous clients of Connor contacted me, expressing their reluctance to engage in business with someone so eager to ruin another person's life. As opportunities dwindled, it appeared that Connor was heading towards financial ruin. Throughout this time, I maintained a certain distance from dating, despite the fact that a few women at the company expressed interest. In my view, I remained a married man until the divorce was officially concluded, and I aimed to approach everything with integrity. Once it came to an end, I shared a subdued celebration with my colleagues. Several months passed when I received an unexpected call from Isabella's mother, Emily. "Hello, Lucas, this is Emily. Could you spare a moment?" she inquired. "Certainly, Emily," I replied, curious about the nature of this conversation. It's Isabella, she said, her voice trembling. She has tested positive for HIV. She has just received her test results. I expressed my sympathy upon hearing that. However, to be truthful, I find myself unsurprised. We finalized our divorce, so there's nothing more I can do. I see, she responded gently. However, I was wondering if you would be open to having a conversation with her. She is struggling to cope with this situation. With a heavy sigh, I found myself uncertain of its potential benefits, yet I ultimately consented. Very well, Emily. I'll swing by for a little while. Upon my arrival, I was taken aback by the extent of Isabella's transformation. She appeared delicate and fragile, a stark contrast to the woman I once recognized. She attempted to come closer, yet I raised my hand, maintaining my space. With a heavy heart, she settled onto the sofa and gestured for me to come sit beside her. You look good, Lucas, she said softly, a faint smile gracing her lips, surpassing my recollections. How have you been faring? I'm managing well, Isabella. Fresh opportunities, new connections, a revitalized perspective. How are you managing? She confessed, struggling to hold my gaze. I've recently learned that I'm HIV positive. I mentioned that your mom told me. It's unfortunate to hear that. Are you aware of the timing? She admitted that it occurred on one of those days spent with Connor. I found myself in situations with several men, and none of them practiced safe measures. I acknowledged her words, allowing them to resonate within me. Is Connor aware? Not yet, she replied, her voice a mere breath. However, I must convey this to him in the near future. I shook my head, struggling to comprehend the chaos she had woven around herself. Well, I have a feeling this won't sit well with you, I remarked, fully aware of Connor's fiery disposition. No, likely not, she concurred. She inhaled deeply, her gaze fixed on her hands. Lucas, I simply need to express my apologies. I now understand the extent of the damage I've caused in the lives of others. I once had a husband who was truly remarkable, and I let it all slip through my fingers. I understand that you might have strong feelings against me, and I completely accept that. However, I find myself wishing to leave this world with the hope that you might find it in your heart to forgive me. For the first time, I sensed that she genuinely grasped the significance of her choices. I noticed the profound regret etched on her face, and Olivia's words about forgiveness echoed in my mind. Clinging to resentment would merely hinder my progress. Very well, Isabella, I replied, giving a slow nod. I absolve you. Tears flowed down her cheeks as she murmured, Thank you. That holds a significance for me that you may never fully grasp. She gathered her thoughts and said, You deserve to be happy, Lucas. Seek out a person to cherish and rely on. Start a family and embrace the journey ahead. I shall, I responded, valuing the thoughtfulness. If you ever find yourself in need of a listening ear, don't hesitate to reach out. She nodded, brushing away her tears. I shall. Thank you for being here, Lucas. It feels like an eternity since we last connected. I softly expressed how much I missed the woman I married. By the way, how are things going with Connor and Grayson? She gave a slight shake of her head. It leaves much to be desired. Connor has grown increasingly hostile since the lawsuit, and his enterprise is crumbling. He has been quite severe with me recently. Would you like me to be present when you share your diagnosis with him? I inquired. Thank you, but no. I must tackle this on my own. We exchanged our farewells, and as I stepped away, Emily embraced me with a firm hug. Thanks, Lucas. It was everything to her and to me. A few weeks later, As I sat down for dinner, a news report piqued my interest. A local businessman and two others were discovered deceased, with authorities suspecting a murder-suicide. The anchor reported, Connor Hayes, along with his son and an unknown woman, was discovered with unsuccessful gunshot wounds. Investigations are underway, and further details will be disclosed shortly. I stood still, my hand instinctively moving to grab my phone as I dialed Emily's number. She responded, tears streaming down her face. Emily, I just caught the latest update. Was it truly? It was her, Lucas, she gasped. Connor took aim at her, then at his son, and ultimately turned the gun on himself. Oh my goodness, I deeply apologize, I murmured, overwhelmed by a surge of sorrow. I understand, Lucas, she replied, her voice trembling. It seems she revealed her diagnosis to him, and he lost his temper. An autopsy is currently underway. I never wished for any of this, Emily. I trust that you are aware of that. I certainly do, Lucas. I appreciate your efforts in reconciling with her. I prefer to believe she has found her tranquility now. I expressed my hope softly. Feel free to reach out if there's anything I can assist with. At Isabella's memorial, I stood alongside her parents, honoring her memory with my final goodbyes. The autopsy disclosed that both Connor and Grayson were also HIV positive. It seems that when Connor and Grayson discovered their HIV positive status, their lives took a dramatic turn. Isabella had attempted to propose that they all undergo testing, but upon receiving the news, Connor had reacted sharply, taking the lives of her, his son, and ultimately his own. It was heartbreaking, and everything seemed so pointless. In the days that followed, I found myself deep in contemplation, grieving not just for the woman I had once cherished, but for the future I envisioned we would build together. The echoes of our cherished years remained, a poignant reminder of what had been. As I was preparing to leave the office one day, Chloe Mitchell, a coworker of mine, came by to chat. "Hey, Lucas," she said with a friendly grin. "Would you care to join us for happy hour this evening? I thought you could use some companionship." For a brief instant, I nearly declined her offer. The thought of exposing myself once more seemed unfamiliar and somewhat intimidating. Yet, a notion flickered in my mind. Life was progressing, and perhaps I ought to do the same. "What on earth?" I remarked, returning her smile. "I'm in need of some pleasant companionship." "Well then," she said, her smile growing broader, "we'll catch you at Brew and Vibe after work." As she departed, I reclined in my chair, an unusual yet comforting tranquility enveloping me. The journey of existence pressed on, and for the first time in ages, I sensed a readiness to explore the paths that lay ahead. Thanks for watching this story on Addy Story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and hit that subscribe button so you never miss a new tale. Stay tuned for more, and until next time, take care and keep living your own amazing stories.